The Hand of Light, Episode 17. The Rescue. In our last episode, the heroes had come from the city of Skullport to a stalagmite compound that was a base of a House Oussiryn, a drow house from Menzoberranzan, and the heroes cleared out the stalagmite compound, found a teleportation device that led them to Menzoberranzan itself, into the heart of the dungeons of House Oussiryn itself. The heroes were brought here on a quest to rescue Dona's siblings from the drow, who had her siblings had been taken captive by the drow. So they find themselves in House Oussiryn in the dungeons, and they kill several drow. They fight some animated statues shaped like driders. They interrogate some drow, and they find a drow guide who is willing to help them find Dona's siblings. This drow guide tells them that Dona's siblings are now up in the chapel, where the matron mother and the other priestesses and most of the drow in the compound have gathered. The matron mother is about to sacrifice Dona's siblings to their evil goddess Lolth. So the Hand of the Light begins to fight their way up through the drow compound. They go into a courtyard, there is a small skirmish with drow, they move through a gallery, and they find themselves in the chapel of Lolth. They discover the matron mother of House Oussiryn, surrounded by priestesses, killing a captive on an altar to their evil goddess. The Hand of Light charges into the room and begins to slaughter the drow, and they proceed to rescue the captives from the evil drow priestess and her minions. And that is where episode 16 left off, and now we find our heroes in the middle of the chapel, having just defeated scores of drow and drow priestesses. The chapel rumbles, and you hear an otherworldly feminine voice boom, "You have desecrated my unholy place. Take this as a token of my dissatisfaction." Vertical slashes of darkness split the air, and monstrous creatures that resembled blobs of melted wax enter the chamber. The chapel rumbles, and you hear an otherworldly feminine voice, "You have desecrated my unholy place. Take this as a token of my dissatisfaction." Vertical slashes of darkness split the air, and monstrous creatures that resemble blobs of melted wax enter the chamber. In the center of each of these creatures is a large eye that stares maliciously at the heroes. Quick DM note here, at this point only 3 of the players have arrived. There is Dexter the wizard, there is Dunkle the rogue, and Lear the bard. One of the players, Dona, the Barbarian, is arriving a little late to the session, and so the 3 heroes are now going up against these 2 monstrous creatures. I will tell you what they are. They are Yaklols, handmaidens of Lolth, demonic creatures, very dangerous, very nasty, and this battle was planned for them to fight them with Dona's assistance, and she is not here yet. She's arriving a little late to the session, and so the 3 of them are going to have to go it alone against them, and it might be a little nasty. As another note, there is a 5th player who plays Karn, a Paladin, and he was unable to make the session at all, and so it's just going to be the 4 characters going through today's session. As the battle with these Yaklols unfolds, the Hand of Light quickly finds out that they are very nasty adversaries. They are resistant to spell attacks. They have these tentacles that extend out from them with a 10-foot reach, and when they hit someone, they do craploads of damage, poison damage. They can cast web at will. One of them fills up part of the chamber right off the bat with webbing that makes moving about quite difficult. And they're able to cast the spell Dominate Person. During the course of the battle, they were never successful in getting a Dominate Person off. One of the times, Dexter the wizard countered it, and the other time, I think he countered the other time too. So both times, Dexter cast Counterspell on it, and the Dominate Person spells didn't go off. DM note, this was kind of disappointing to me because I was really looking forward to dominating one of the characters. I'd actually had in mind trying to do it on Dona, and I'd kind of envisioned this Barbarian Dona going against Dexter and just tearing him apart. That's kind of what I had in mind. It made sense. The Yaklowls are pretty intelligent. They would probably target a warrior type. A Barbarian would be a perfect warrior type to target, and then they would send that warrior type, having been dominated, against a wizard to just tear him apart. And so I kind of envisioned these Yaklowls employing some sort of tactic like that. Unfortunately, it didn't work. The wizard played his counterspells very well, and yeah, I was stymied, but there's always a next time. The heroes also find out that these Yaklowls are resistant to many forms of damage, so damaging them actually isn't too difficult for them because they mostly have magical weapons and stuff like that, but they are very nasty creatures. So I'm not going to give you like a play-by-play for the exact entire battle, but I will just cover the highlights, and hopefully that gives you an idea of what happens. Because Dexter, the wizard, countered the Dominate person, one of the Yaklowls begins to go after him right off the bat. And this is when they find out that they can do a ton of poison damage with their tentacles. Dunkle, the rogue, begins to harry the Yaklowl that's going after Dexter. Dexter and Dunkle, for the most part of the battle, are going against this one Yaklowl. Dexter, the wizard, is fighting in hand-to-hand combat with him for the most part, so that he gives advantage to... No, not advantage. He gives Dunkle the ability to do his sneak attack on the Yaklowl. So they are on one side of the room. The Yaklowl ends up on the wall at one point, and they're kind of dancing around doing their thing as the Yaklowl tries to take them out. The other Yaklowl begins out on Lear, and I believe he hits Lear for quite a bit of damage at the outset of the battle. And this is when the player who runs Dona arrives, and so... A little note on how I handle player absences. So if a player isn't at a session or doesn't arrive on time, basically the character is not there, and then when the player's butt hits the seat, I just put the mini on the map and we just say that, oh, your character has arrived. So it is, it breaks suspension of disbelief a little bit, but it is from a gameplay standpoint, it is the easiest way I found to handle this sort of thing. On the same token, the Paladin's player, who is not there, the Paladin is simply not present in the adventure. He has mysteriously disappeared, and we sometimes come up with like in-game reasons for it, but that's not always top priority. We just say that, hey, you're not here, so your character's not here. So anyway, Dona arrives, the Barbarian pops into existence, and she begins hammering on this Yaklowl in front of her. And this was the Yaklowl that was previously going against Lear. This Yaklowl begins to hammer back at Dona, and Dona has a special pendant on. And this pendant renders her completely immune to poison and disease, and so the Yaklowl's attacks against Dona are extremely ineffective. The Yaklowl hammers on her for a couple rounds. Dona returns blows, severely wounding the Yaklowl. At this point, the Yaklowl decides this is had enough with this. This Barbarian is not getting much damage from my attacks. And the Yaklowl decides to switch to the Bard, who is nearby, who took much more damage from the attacks. A quick DM note on my role-playing, so to explain why the Yaklowl did this, Lolth sent the Yaklowls here with the intention of punishing the heroes and causing them to suffer for having desecrated her unholy sanctuary. So my role-playing reasoning behind having the Yaklowl switch targets was, my job here is to punish these heroes as much as possible, and this one hero is resistant to most of the damage I'm able to do, so I'm going to switch to another one, and hopefully I can kill this other hero. So the Yaklowl turns to Lear and begins to hammer on him, its tentacles wrapping around him, poisonous ooze secreting out, heavily damaging the Bard. I believe he might have gone down at one point in this battle too. It's possible. I think in this whole session Lear went down a few times, so it is difficult for me to remember exactly which times he goes down. There was lots of dropping to 0 hit points in this session. It was a pretty brutal session in my opinion, but it was tons of fun. I think in some part the brutality owes to the fact that Karn was not present, so the heroes were up against very powerful foes without their Paladin, who is a DPS powerhouse and offers lots of other benefits. So the downside to this is the session was more difficult. The upside is that they get the XP from the monsters gets split between 4 heroes instead of 5, so they get more XP. So there's more risk, but there's more reward. The battle plays out, and eventually Dunkle and Dexter manage to drop the Yaklowl that is following them around, and then finally Dona kills the Yaklowl that she and Lear are fighting. And as they're kind of beating these Yaklowls down, I describe every cut that they hit into the thing. It causes ooze to kind of weep out of the wounds, and I describe these Yaklals that look like melted candle waxes as kind of slowly like depleting and oozing down and melting out into bigger and bigger blobs on the floor. And then finally, like when they're near death, the eye is on the top of this big amorphous blob on the floor, and that eye is pointed up toward the ceiling, mostly closed. And so I believe with her final blow, Dona raises her greatsword up, her Githyanki +3 greatsword. That's a whole nother story. And I believe that there are probably some Githyanki after her trying to get this sword back. And I bother the players about this a lot. Hasn't happened yet. Someday Githyanki hit squad will come for Dona. Anyway, she raises her sword high above her head, brings it down on the last Yaklal. She splits the eye in two. I describe shards of like eyeglass going around the room, and then the Yaklal is destroyed. Having defeated the Yaklals, the heroes gather together. There are 3 of Dona's siblings that they had rescued from the chapel, and there is another human, and they take these 4 rescued captives with them, and they proceed into a courtyard. This courtyard has a fountain in the middle of it, and there is fungi growing all throughout the courtyard. There's a path that cuts through it, fungi outside the path, and the fungi is growing in a blue mold. The heroes cut through the courtyard and enter into a room. Before going into the room, Dona had gone up and checked in through a window. She had seen that there are staircases in the room, and they decided they want to get into that room and go up the staircases. They know that Dona's other sister, Marta, is being held by one of the wizards of the drow, and they had found out previously in the previous session that her sister and the wizard were probably on the 2nd floor, and so they know that they want to go up the staircases. At this point, there's some discussion. So the whole drow compound had been alerted to their presence. Horns had blared and stuff like that. I had described a little bit of commotion outside, and some of the heroes are in this room now, and which turns out to be like a lounge with like sofas and a cabinet, and some of the heroes are still outside in the courtyard with the captives, and there is some time that goes by at the table where they're trying to discuss something. It was just like a minute or two, but the way I do things is if the players at the table are having a discussion and talking about something, that means the characters in-game are standing around having a discussion talking about something. So the time that passes at the table also passes in-game. So the entire compound had been alerted, and they're having a discussion. This means that stuff is happening, the drow are looking for them, and they're having a discussion. Some of them are out in the courtyard, very, very visible to them, and I think I gave them some sort of hint of like, you guys, you're standing around in the courtyard, and like anybody that walks by is going to be able to see you, and they ignored me. Which is fine, I have no problem with that, but I just want to make sure they have the information at their disposal that might be relevant. And they had the information, and they continued their discussion, and a drow sentry from a palisade wall near a tower spotted them and begins to attack them. At this point, they roll initiative, which is very important to see who goes first, and the drow goes first. And the first thing he does is yell out, "The intruders are in the courtyard." And then he fires at them. The heroes return fire, and the drow drops very fast. Trivial encounter, but the important part is that he alerted nearby drow where the heroes are. Lear the Bard does a lot of crazy things in my campaign and in the adventure sessions, but he often has strikes of genius as well and does things that are super, super useful. So sometimes he does things that are foolish, and sometimes he does things that are crazy awesome. Lear has a moment of crazy awesome. He uses minor illusion to project a sound of the drow's voice, saying, "The intruders have moved to the other courtyard." And then I have him do a deception check, which he rolls really well on. The deception check was to imitate the drow's voice, because in my world, the drow speak in Elvish, but they have a weird accent that it's not like surface elves, and so he has to imitate that. And he rolls really well on it. I thought this was an amazing stroke of genius, and he probably gained inspiration over that. And if he didn't, and you're listening to this, Lear, ask me about it next time. The heroes begin to go up the stairs from the lounge. I believe Dona is leading them, followed by Lear. They end up in a corridor, a hallway with doors on either side. They move into one of the doors. It's locked. I believe they use a key that they had gotten off the matron mother to open it. Dona and Lear move into the room. Dexter and Dunkle usher the captives into the room. At this point, Lear goes to the window in this room and looks down in the inner courtyard, and he can see a couple drow moving through the inner courtyard, and they're heading to the outer courtyard. The heroes presume then that Lear's little deception paid off and was successful. At this point, a door at the end of the hallway opens, revealing 2 drow, and on the other end of the hallway, another drow comes around the corner, and they attack. So in this battle, the drow kind of have the heroes sandwiched between them. There turn out to be 3 normal drow, 2 drow elite warriors, which are much tougher, do quite a bit more damage, have more hit points, and there is a drow mage. And again, we'll go for a quick recap, not recounting everything, just touching on the major highlights. So in the first round, the drow mage casts Wall of Force on Dunkle, enclosing him within it. This cuts Dexter off from the battle, who is still on the stairs. Now, I believe he had moved over to the stairs maybe before the wizard cast this. At this point, Lear and Dona are cut off from the other drow and the wizard. Lear and Dona clean up a couple drow on their side. They go down pretty quickly, but they can't get to the rest of the drow. Dunkle is in the Wall of Force, and Dexter is cut off. Quick DM aside, I had planned on casting this Wall of Force to cut off some of the heroes, but not all of my allies. And in the heat of combat, making decisions, I screwed it up. And so it was a pretty poorly placed Wall of Force. However, Lear offered the solution to this. He climbed on top of the Wall of Force. I had cast it as a little hemispherical dome. He climbed on top of it because there was some room between the Wall of Force and the ceiling, and he began to cast spells from atop it. I had one of the drow reach up and grab Lear and pull him down off the Wall of Force onto the side with the wizard and the other two drow. They all began to pound on Lear, stabbing at him, hacking at him, and he takes quite a bit of damage if I remember correctly. In desperate straits, Dunkle climbs on top of... Nope, scratch that. Not Dunkle. Dexter the wizard climbs on top of the Wall of Force, gets over to Dona's side, links up with Dona, and then uses a scroll of Dimension Door. Or it might have been teleportation. I forget which one. But the point is that Dunkle and Dona both teleport to the other side of the Wall of Force next to the wizard. Somewhere around this point, Lear, lying on the ground, getting beat on by two drow, casts blindness on the wizard. The wizard fails his save and he is completely blind. At this point, I discover how horrible it is to have a caster blinded, because you can do almost nothing. I have him cast like Thunder Wave. It actually ends up hitting some of his allies at one point. And then one of his allies switches place with the wizard, and then Dona is pounding on the wizard a little bit. Dexter is casting spells, and they're pounding on the drow. The wizard can't see anything. I have him presume that nothing has changed. He knows that the heroes had teleported behind him in their little hallway. So I have the drow wizard cast a firewall in that little hallway where he believes that Dona and Dexter are probably still standing. And they are, and it works, and they take some damage. Something happens at some point, I forget what it was, but somebody attacks the wizard, he loses his concentration, and Dunkle is released from the Wall of Force, and he begins hammering on the drow. At one point, one of the drow gets thrown into the Wall of Fire himself, screams, and is heavily damaged. The wizard drops his concentration on Wall of Force. Wall of Fire, I mean. The drow are dropping, and the wizard casts greater invisibility on himself, since his Wall of Force is now gone, and the heroes continue to pound on him. Eventually, however, the drow cannot succeed, and the heroes vanquish them. I feel that I'm probably forgetting some of the spells that Dexter and Lear cast, but that is the nature of things, and your DM having a poor memory, and I'll just do the best I can. So now the heroes move down the hallway, and they open up a couple of doors. Inside the doors is very exquisite furniture. It is gilded. There are cabinets and stuff like that, but they don't necessarily find anything that would lead them to the wizard's room. They're looking for occupants. They're looking for this wizard, which actually they believe they just killed the wizard. They believe that was probably Elrond, the first wizard of House Oussiryn, and they think he's dead now. So at this point, they believe that all they need to do is find Marta, Dona's sister, and then they can get out of there. Dexter the wizard had reserved a 5th level slot to cast Teleportation Circle, which is their egress from this compound. And so now they're just looking for Marta. However, they don't find Marta in any of these rooms, and they're pretty sure that the wizard was on the 2nd floor. And so now they go into these rooms, they go into one room, and they begin opening everything in the room. They open a chest, and then they open a cabinet. The cabinet's locked. Dona smashes the cabinet open, sundering the lock on it, and they open the cabinet doors. This triggers a trap, and webs spew into the room. Lear and Dona are in the room, they are caught in the webs, and a poisonous gas begins to fill the room and the hallway outside. Dexter and Dunkle are back quite a ways with the captives, so they're not caught in it. Dona, of course, is immune to poisonous gas, and she laughs at it, and she's also not affected by the web at all. Lear casts Dispel Magic, destroying the web part. Poisonous gas is still there. And then, inside the cabinet, everybody notices a glowing portal that leads somewhere. Lear, being a spellcaster himself and knowing a little bit about arcane things, studies this glowing portal and correctly deduces that it must be a portal to an interdimensional pocket. Such interdimensional pockets are often created by wizards, so that they can have mansions and other expanses in a different place that is magical and protected and separate from the prime material plane. As Dona moves back to tell Dunkle and Dexter what they have found, Lear jumps through the portal. Dona tells Dunkle and Dexter that they are going through a portal to find Marta. She's probably inside, and they have nothing to worry about. Dona asks Dunkle and Dexter to escort her sister Marta and her siblings, her brothers, back down to the dungeon area. This is where they left some other captives, and they're planning on using their teleportation circle down there to get out of the drow compound. So Dunkle and Dexter begin to head down to the dungeon area, escorting their captives down there, while Dona turns around and she goes with Lear to try to find Marta, who they believe to be through this portal. I think I just misspoke and said they had Marta. They don't have Marta yet. They still have to find Marta. They believe that she is through this portal. If I were a professional podcaster, I'd probably re-record that segment and take out the misspeak, but whatever. Through the portal, Lear finds himself in a hallway adorned with fanciful frescoes depicting an army of 4-armed demons tearing apart humans, surface elves, and dwarves. At the end of the hallway are 2 double doors. Lear begins to move toward them. About halfway to the double doors, 2 monstrous creatures emerge from what Lear now sees as illusionary walls. Illusionary walls. There we go. That's how we pronounce that word. Whee! 2 large, ogre-sized creatures with 4 arms and purple-black skin and yellowish-white hair move to sandwich Lear. One is in front of him, before the doors, and one is behind him. Lear doesn't know it, but these creatures are Dragoloths. A Dragoloth is a half-drow, half-Glabrazu demon, born of a drow high priestess in an unholy, dangerous ritual. They are gifted with innate magic and physical might, and they usually remain in the service of the mother's house, lending their thirst for destruction to that house's plans to triumph over its rivals. These creatures are heavily muscled. They are graceful, quite like the drow. Their faces are demonic, with bestial features, glowing red eyes, and an elongated dog-like snout, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. And in case you're wondering, yes, I did just read that from Volo's Guide to Monsters, but it's really good text and well-written and really cool, so there you go. As an aside note, I highly recommend that book. There is a lot of cool stuff in there. There's a lot of lore. There's a lot of interesting, cool things. I love pulling monsters from Volo's Guide. Highly recommended. These creatures enclose Lear and begin to wail on him. I believe they get a surprise round, since he was unaware of their presence, and Lear is not doing well. He is alone by himself. Dona has not come through the portal yet, although she's heading that way. And in a moment of desperation, Lear casts Polymorph and turns himself into a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Now, the room is not tall enough, and so he is squeezed. However, he's not dying yet. Dona comes through the portal and begins to wail on one of the Dragoloths behind Lear. That Dragoloth turns around, and Dona and that Dragoloth begin to go at each other. The other Dragoloth is going against Lear. A few rounds go by, and then the double doors to the room at the end of the corridor open. The walls of this large room are nondescript, but the ceiling glows with the faint light cast from hundreds of stars painted across it. The room contains a large, finely made bed, wardrobe, cabinet, desk, chest, and 3 bookcases. A large pile of plush cushions covers the middle of the room. In the middle of these plush cushions are 3 females, 2 elven, 1 human. Later, the heroes will see that this human female bears a close resemblance to Dona. This is her sister, Marta. The doors to the room had opened because a drow wizard, Aelyrendar himself, had opened it. The heroes had not fought Aelyrendar outside in that corridor. They had fought his brother, the second wizard of House Oussiryn. However, now they are fighting the first wizard, and he is not pleased. He had spent the first couple rounds in combat, preparing himself for this battle as the Dragoloth confronted the intruders, and he turns, he sees the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and there is only one thought that occurs to him. Banishment. He casts it, and the Tyrannosaurus Rex is gone, banished to a black void where he floats, and his little wee bitty brain cannot comprehend where he is, but he begins to pedal through the void with his little tiny arms, looking for food anywhere. Dona is left alone with 2 Dragoloths, a wizard, and she does not fare well. The Dragoloths and the wizards dispatch Dona after a few rounds, and she goes down. Blackness consumes her. The wizard releases a concentration on banishment, bringing the Tyrannosaurus Rex back. They had prepared a little bit before they did so. When the Tyrannosaurus Rex comes back, the 2 Dragoloth begin beating on it. the wizard begins casting spells at it. Soon, the Tyrannosaurus Rex is out of hit points, Lear reverts back to his true form, and he quickly goes down. Darkness consumes him, too. Quick DM note, this is one of the reasons why you never split the party. However, to be fair, my players and their characters had assumed they had already killed the wizard, Aelyrendar, and that they had simply needed to find Marta somewhere, and they believed that she was through the portal, and so they had no reason to believe that there was a massive encounter waiting for them. There was, however, and Dona and Lear went down. So Dunkle and Dexter are downstairs in the dungeon with Dona's brothers and the other captives they had previously rescued, and the plan was that they would go wait in the dungeon for Lear and Dona to get Marta from this interdimensional portal, and once they had all gotten down there, they would go through a teleportation circle back to Waterdeep. That was the plan. However, they wait for 10 minutes, and Dona and Lear do not arrive. At this point, Dexter proclaims that they are likely dead. Something happened, they are not arriving, they should take the captives, go through the teleportation circle back to Waterdeep. Dexter is not a coward. He is quite brave. However, he is practically out of spells at this point. He is completely depleted, and he proclaims to Dunkle, I am of little use. I can do nothing. We could go in and find them, but what will I do? A wizard out of spells is as bad as a commoner. Dunkle, however, thinks deeply and says, no, I will not leave my comrades to whatever fate they have found themselves in. I will go back in, and I will try to rescue them, find them, do whatever needs to be. If they died, they died, and I will revenge them, but I will not leave them to their fate. Dexter is preparing to cast Teleportation Circle to go back to Waterdeep. He wishes his friend the best. Dunkle stops him and says, wait, there are other captives. There are slaves here. In that other chamber, we didn't go in there. We didn't see what there are. Perhaps they can aid us. Dexter pauses and doesn't cast his spell. They go into a large chamber. The chamber is split by a crevasse. Inside this chamber, they find dozens of goblins and a handful of bugbears and 3 dwarves. Dunkle asks the goblins, and that would be bugbears. He asks the goblins and bugbears if they will aid them in attacking the drow. One of the bugbears steps forward and says, the drow are too many. We cannot possibly defeat them, and we are armed with nothing. Dunkle explains to them that they have killed most of the drow already, including a wizard and the high priestess, the matron mother, and that there is an armory where they can arm themselves with adamantine weapons from the drow themselves. He asks them again to join them as they attack the compound in order to get vengeance on the drow for years of slavery and cruel abuse. The bugbears and goblins confer among themselves. The bugbear leader turns to Dunkle and says, yes, we will aid you. Lead us to this armory, and let us take vengeance upon the flesh of these cruel drow. Dexter and Dunkle at this point give the captives with them instructions to go through a teleportation device the drow had set up that leads from Skullport area to their compound here in Menzoberranzan. The captives go through this into the drow stalagmite structure near Skullport. Dunkle and Dexter then head up with the goblins and bugbears up to the armory. Dunkle had rubbed an oil of etherealness on him, and so he is in the ethereal plane, undetectable, and he is going ahead scouting the area out, hoping that they don't run into any drow patrols. So when Lear and Dona went down, and darkness consumed them, all of the players had these looks of, abject depression, just like, oh crap, this sucks, we both died. It was a really bad moment. I decided not to hold any punches because Lear did what Lear did. He made a foolish decision, in my opinion. However, the players believed the wizard had already been defeated. He went ahead by himself and dragged Dona with him. The party was split, so I didn't hold any punches, and Lear and Dona went down, and the players were all like, this sucks, this is horrible. However, when Dunkle had his moment of inspiration and conversed with the goblins and bugbears and convinced them to fight with the heroes, all of the players were ecstatic and super excited for this rescue mission. This was the highlight of the session. It was awesome. Dunkle's camera that he records the game session on had run out of memory, and there was this scramble to get Dexter's camera, and I'm referring to them as their character names, but this is how I call them. Anyway, and so they wanted to get the video and record it. And Dexter, Dunkle will probably put it up on YouTube at some point, but the players were super excited. This was awesome, this awesome rescue mission. We're going to be able to go in here and try to get them back. It was awesome. Hands down, one of the best, probably one of the best parts of any of the games I've run at any point over these last few years. So it was super cool, and the players were going nuts. It was awesome. It was a great feeling, this rescue mission. So Lear and Dona, since they went down, their players had nothing to do at this point, and so I gave Dona the bugbears, and I took out a little card, and I gave her the stats for the bugbears, and then Lear, I gave him the stat cards for the goblins, and so Dona was going to run the bugbears, and Lear was going to run the goblins, and I gave them a handful of miniatures for them to run. I think Dona had roughly 7 bugbears, and I gave Lear 8 goblins, and so they were going to run these in their rescue attempt. Well, they didn't know that it was a rescue attempt quite yet. I mean, out of character they did, but in character they just knew that they were going to investigate and try to find their friends who had gone through this portal and then had never come back. So Dunkle, in the ethereal plane, is scouting ahead, and he goes through the portal into this hallway with 2 frescoes on the side, and he has no idea that they are illusionary walls, and he sees that the way is clear. He goes up to the double doors at the end of the hallway, walks through the doors in ethereal, and he sees, in a pile of cushions, 3 females, 4 females actually, because Dona is one of them. Dona is face down, her hands are manacled behind her back, her feet are tied with rope and then connected to the manacles. Dona is hogtied and covered with blood, lots of blood, and lying next to her is Lear. He is hogtied in a similar fashion, face down. Both of them are unconscious, both covered with lots of blood. Dunkle turns around. Well, he also sees the wizard. The wizard is standing next to his desk. And Dunkle understands Elvish, and so he understands the wizard as he's talking through some sort of little magical scrying device, a little portal on his desk, and he is talking to someone asking for reinforcements, saying that intruders have killed much of the drow, and he needs help. So reinforcements are being summoned. Dunkle turns around, goes back to the double doors, and heads to his friends. And he tells them what's going on. They are waiting outside in the wizard's room. The goblins, the bugbears, and Dexter. It occurs to me at this point that in the original battle with Lear and Dona, before they went down, there was also a shadow demon that the drow mage had summoned that helped him in the battle against them. I totally forgot to mention that. I am not going to go back and re-record that stuff, but there was a shadow demon there, so the odds were even more fully stacked against Lear and Dona. It was nasty. However, at this point, more than 10 minutes had gone past, which is the length of time the shadow demon is there, and so at this point, the shadow demon is gone. Dunkle, however, did not see the Dragloth. There was a Dragloth remaining. Dona and Lear had managed to kill one of the Dragloths, but one was still alive. He didn't see it, though. We know, however, there are illusionary walls. Dunkle doesn't know that. He didn't see that, and so it's quite possible that the Dragloth is hiding behind these illusionary walls. And so the rescue squad begins to pour through the portal. Dunkle had to drop out of etherealness, and so he is now visible. As they enter through the portal, a Dragloth steps forward and attacks them. Now, Dexter the wizard had used a scroll of Summon Elemental and brought up an Earth Elemental. This Earth Elemental was with them the whole time, I just forgot to mention it. The Earth Elemental is there. The Earth Elemental charges forward and begins to pound on these 2 double doors that leads into the wizard's inner chamber, his bedroom. These double doors are made out of steel, so they are resistant. It takes a couple rounds for the Earth Elemental to break down these double doors. During this time, the goblins, bugbears, Dunkle are pounding on the Dragloth, who is at full health. They didn't see the battle with Dona and Lear. This Dragloth had been heavily injured. However, now he is at full health. Something or someone had healed him. The Earth Elemental finally breaks down the double doors and moves into the chamber where the wizard awaits. The Dragloth drops some of the bugbears and goblins, and Dunkle is fighting against it. The wizard has a magical staff, a staff of thunder and lightning. He had used this in the original encounter with Dona and Lear, casting a lightning bolt at them. Forgot to mention it, though. I will mention it now. The wizard sees this incredible, massive influx of heroes, goblins, and bugbears, and the wizard has an oh crap moment. The wizard lowers his magical staff, aims it at the Earth Elemental, and a thunderous boom resonates out from it, filling the entire chamber and the hallway, and a stroke of lightning shoots out from it, striking the Earth Elemental. The Earth Elemental takes lightning damage, and this thunderous boom, this thunderclap, rolls over everybody, including the hostages that are on the ground, the captives, including Marta, Dona's sister. So at this point, the two elven females are killed, and I say that I allow Marta to begin making death saving checks. And Dona as well, damaged, begins to make death saving checks. And Lear, who has 0 hit points too, has to start making death saving checks. So now we have 3 of them making death saving checks as this battle unfolds. Dexter, the wizard, mostly out of spells at this point, begins moving forward, and basically for the rest of this battle, all Dexter the wizard is doing is going from Lear to Dona to Marta, feeding them healing potions as they're receiving damage, trying to keep them alive, because this wizard keeps on throwing different things down that damages people. And so he's basically rotating around, feeding people potions to keep them alive. At one point, he drops a acid grenade into Lear's hands, and Lear uses this acid grenade to melt through his manacles. However, he also damages himself. He was awake at one point, and then he dropped back to 0 hit points, melting his hands. Well, not totally melted away. They're okay. He got better. Lear also feeds it to Dona. Dona awakes. Dona is enraged. She sees her sister Marta lying next to her dying, and she bursts the manacles. However, Lear and Dona have no weapons. Their weapons were taken away from them, and they don't know where they are. Dona, with no weapons and her feet still tied, drags Marta away from the battle itself, hopefully to safety. Meanwhile, the bugbears, the earth elemental, and Dunkle are ganging up on the wizard. The Dragloth had gone down before this, and now they are in the bedroom, all surrounding the wizard, and it is looking very bad for the wizard. At one point, the wizard had cast a spell. It might have been the Thunderclap, but it did enough damage to kill quite a few of the bugbears and goblins, and I made them make morale checks. Some of the bugbears ran off, some of the goblins ran off that were still alive. It might have been a fireball spell that he dropped on them. I forget what the spell was exactly. It might have been a Thunderwave spell or something that he cast at like level 5. I forget what it was. That's not the point. It doesn't really matter. He did something. Actually, during the course of the previous battle with Dona and Lear and this battle, this drow wizard ends up going through tons of his spells. He was using shield quite a bit. He used hold person at one point. He had used banishment, and then he, at this point, when he is surrounded by the bugbears and goblins and Dunkle, and things are looking really horrible, the wizard casts greater invisibility. There was one thought in his mind: get away. The wizard, invisible, slips through the earth elemental's feet and begins to move toward the doorway. The heroes hear him walking away and have a general idea of where he is. Dunkle rushes over in that direction, begins to move through the spaces, bumps into him, and has located him. Dunkle attacks him, stabs the wizard. The wizard makes his concentration check and fails. He is now visible. As the bugbears and earth elemental move to attack him, the wizard casts greater invisibility again, disappearing from sight. He moves away again. Dunkle follows. Dunkle runs into him. The bugbears begin to climb after him. The elemental, which has tremor sense, knows exactly where the wizard is, and they begin to attack the wizard, invisible. Eventually they hit him, and the wizard must make another concentration check, which he fails, and is now visible. At this point, the wizard is mostly out of spells. He is being surrounded. Things are going against him. He has a moment of clarity, and he says to himself, "If I'm going to die, I am taking them all with me." And he does what all good wizards do in desperate straits, and drops a fireball at his feet. There was another drow wizard that did this, and the heroes were all seeing him try to get away, seeing him not be successful, and one of them, before I did this, had actually mentioned, oh great, he's going to fireball himself. And I had already planned on doing this, I'd already thought of it, so it wasn't the players giving me an idea, it was them correctly guessing what their DM was thinking. Everybody is perfectly positioned, the fireball goes off and hits everybody. All of the goblins, all of the bugbears, there's only one goblin remaining, Spork, who did a really good job, the earth elemental, all of the heroes, including Marta, who is a commoner, who only has 8 hit points. The fireball does enough damage to kill Marta outright. The other heroes take some damage. All the goblins and bugbears are killed at this point. Spork goes down, that goblin that had served so well goes down. This is funny, Lear, the player, had named his goblins, and this one was Spork, and he was the one that rolled a 20 on his morale check and decided not to run away. All of the other goblins had fled away, and so this was the hero Spork, the hero goblin. This was kind of funny. Lear had a lot of fun playing him. Once the fireball goes off and Marta is dead, the heroes kill the wizard. His corpse falls down. I believe Lear is still unconscious. Dexter runs over, feeds him a healing potion. Lear comes to, stands up, and this was kind of a moment of another small moment where I thought the players would be extremely disappointed and depressed, especially Dona, because the player who plays Dona is actually planning on, at some point, moving away and not being able to play with us anymore, which is kind of crappy and kind of sad. So she had wanted to, her desire was, as a player, to have her character rescue all of her siblings that were being held by drow and various people before she had to stop playing the game. And so this is kind of the climax where she was able to rescue her sisters and her other sibling. And it was kind of crappy because now this fireball went off and killed her sister. She had successfully rescued all of her other siblings, and this was her sister, and it looked like failure had happened. It had already come and gone. And I didn't want her to feel bad, and so I quickly stepped in and said, well, she's dead, but remember, you can bring people back from the dead. In fact, Lear has a spell, Revivify, that can bring people back from the dead. And so Dexter runs over, feeds a potion to Lear, Lear gets back up, and then Lear casts Revivify on Marta, Dona's sister, and she is back from the dead. And so their rescue mission was an awesome success. And the players were all excited, and I was excited. This was super cool. So at this point, the heroes gather up. They gather up Marta, and they head down through the drow compound, and through the windows and stuff, they can see a massive force of drow invading the compound right now. These were probably the people that the wizard had called to for reinforcements. There were some goblins that had armed themselves out in the compound, and these drow are slaughtering these goblins. The heroes continue fleeing downward into the dungeon area, and they gather up all the other captives. Nope, scratch that. The captives had already gone through the portal to the stalagmite compound of the drow, so the heroes also begin to move toward that portal. Dexter leaves his earth elemental behind with instructions to pound the crap out of the magical inscriptions on that portal so that the drow cannot follow them back to the Skullport area, and then the heroes go through that portal. In the Skullport area, that drow compound, they reunite with the other captives, and then they use their adamantine weapons that they had found in the drow compound to beat the crap out of that teleportation circle stuff that had been inscribed on the ground. The theory being that the drow will not be able to travel through that, and not only will they not be able to follow them, but their slave activity where they had been purchasing slaves from Skullport and taking them to Menzoberranzan, that would also be ended. At this point, Dexter casts Teleportation Circle, his 5th level slot that he had been saving this whole time, and all of the heroes and their rescued captives, all of Dona's siblings, her remaining siblings, travel back to Waterdeep. They arrive in El Torchel Academy, where Dexter had studied as a wizard, and the mission is a success. Hi, my name is Luke Hart. I am the Dungeon Master who runs this campaign. I call it the Hand of Light campaign. That is the name of the adventuring party, and so that's the campaign I call it by. And I design all of the adventures that these guys run, just purely coming out of my head with these adventures. So I hope you enjoyed this. Well, it's a YouTube video that I'm going to put out there, but I can call it a podcast as well. I don't have any accompanying video with it. One of my goals is to get a camera that I can actually record video to, because I think it's super cool. There are other people out there that do like campaign diaries and summaries and stuff on YouTube, and they have videos that go along with it, and it's really well done. It's really cool, so I hope to do that. I just need to scrape together some money to get that camera. So by profession, I am a technical writer, and I work with like software developers and stuff like that. I write technical documentation. I studied writing in school, went to the University of Michigan. However, my spare time, my great love, the passion that I have is playing Dungeons & Dragons. It is an awesome game. I love it. I run a total of 3 campaigns right now. 2 of my campaigns are with groups of adults. The other campaign is called the Sword Coast Guard campaign. The 2 groups meet every other Saturday, every other weekend. So basically, every weekend I am DMing Dungeons & Dragons for one of these 2 adult groups. I also run a group that I call the Youngling Campaign. This group is composed of 4, they're kids. They're between the ages of like 10 and 12, I believe. And the Youngling campaign meets about once every month or so, and these kids have a blast playing Dungeons & Dragons. It is amazing. One time, the mom of one of the kids was like, yeah, we were going to Disney World, and the kids were more excited about playing D&D than they were about going to Disney World. So that was like a huge compliment to just I love being able to offer a form of entertainment to people where they can get together and they can have tons of fun, and it's awesome just, seeing the joy on my players' faces. It's just really cool. It's this really cool feeling of saying that I created this thing, I made this adventure, I am running this game, I am delivering a form of entertainment to them, and they're enjoying it, and that is a really cool, satisfying feeling, and I get a kick out of that. So as I mentioned, I write all of the adventures myself. Everything that the heroes do for the two adult campaigns, everything is a creation of my imagination. And I create all of these adventures, Word documents and maps and everything. And one of the things that I'm going to begin doing is I'm going to begin publishing these adventures, just like self-publishing them, creating PDFs, and putting them out on DriveThruRPG. I haven't done this yet. I have my first adventure. It's almost done. I'm almost ready to put it out on DriveThruRPG. The adventure is called The Tower of Aelyrendar the Grim. And once I actually get it out there and down below in the link area, I will put like a link to it, obviously. So if you enjoy this podcast and you like these videos and stuff, you might like my adventures, especially if you're a DM, you might find it pretty cool. So this is the tail end of this adventure with the drow compound. At one point, I really want to make a PDF of it and put it out on DriveThruRPG as well. The Aelyrendar the Grim Tower, that adventure, I'm going to put it out on DriveThruRPG, and I'm going to do like their pay what you want thing, which basically means that you can get it for free, download it, and look at it and stuff. And if you like it, hey, you can go back and you can throw me a couple bucks, If you think it's crap and you don't like it, then don't give me any money. I mean, that's the way the market economy works in this world, in this country at least. So as I mentioned, I'm a writer by profession, so I think the adventures that I publish are pretty cool. I think that you will enjoy them, especially as a DM. So go check it out. This one right now is free, so you got nothing to lose. Anyway, I'm going to sign off. I plan on doing more of these little podcasts. Hopefully I get a camera soon, and then I'll put some video along with it. Hopefully you found this enjoyable to some extent. And I know a lot of YouTubers out there that do this sort of thing. They have some sort of signature phrase that they'll say at the end of their videos. And this is my first video, and I don't have a signature phrase quite yet. I'm sure I'll come up with something really cool that will be super impressive. But until then, I'll simply say goodbye. No, that's not going to work.